of Karen Reed fame. She's in the same, they're all in the same courtroom as the Karen Reed case, Fan included. She's going to decide whether McGee's guilty or not of manslaughter. Prosecutors say that McGee knew her husband, ex-husband, Andrew, had cardiac issues when she got into an argument with him at his house. So now she's charged with manslaughter. Next witness, this is a big one. Zuzi Savage. This is the daughter of the victim and the defendant. She was there. This case may ride on what she has to say. Let's watch.
And who did you live there with?
My dad and my brother Harry.
And specifically on January 28th of 2020, how old were you?
18.
And what grade were you in school?
12th grade.
What is your mother's name?
Penelope and McGee.
And in January of 2020, where was your mother living?
I'm not sure.
Did you live with her in the month of January?
No, I did not.
Now, drawing your attention specifically to January 28th of 2020, at some point during that day, did your mother come over to 40 Meadowbrook Road in Brookline?
Yes.
And do you know what time of day that was?
At night.
And can you tell the court what happened on January 28th of 2020 when your mother came to Meadowbrook Road in Brookline?
I was in my room, and it was a school night, and I heard yelling from downstairs.
And who did you hear yelling?
Well, at first I thought it was my dad and my brother Harry.
And what did you do when you heard the yelling?
I went downstairs to see what was going on.
And what did you see when you got downstairs?
That it was Penelope and my dad.
And when you first saw them, where were they standing?
In the kitchen.
And what were they doing in the kitchen?
Yelling, fighting.
And where within the kitchen were they standing when you first saw them?
Towards the front hallway.
Did you hear what they were yelling about?
No, not exactly.
And how would you describe your mother's tone of voice at that time?
She sounded very upset and angry.
And what about your father?
He seemed more distressed.
And once you saw that they were in the kitchen and that it was your mother and your father, what did you do?
At first I tried to intervene and tell them to stop.
And did they stop when you said that?
No.
And how long did it go on that you were standing in the kitchen watching them fighting?
Maybe 5 minutes.
And then what did you do?
I went upstairs to get my phone.
And where was your phone?
In my bedroom.
And where was your brother Harry?
He was in his room.
Did you see your brother Harry?
Yes, I went to his room.
And what did you do?
I told him to stay in his room and to not come downstairs.
And when you grabbed your phone, what did you do?
I first texted and called my brother, Noah.
And after you did that, what did you do?
I started walking towards the stairs and dialed 911.
And were you connected to 911?
Yes.
And as you were connected to 911, what happened?
I went down the stairs and I told them that there was a domestic dispute happening. And by the time I came down the stairs, Penelope and my dad were in the front hallway.
And how close is that in relation to the stairs?
It's right there.
And what did you see them doing in the front hallway?
Screaming, yelling, and my dad's back was pushed against the closet.
And what?
Judge, if I may witness on that.
Yes.
All right, sidebar, quick break. We'll get more from the daughter on the stand. Stay with us. Welcome back to Court TV Live. Busy day here. Some incredibly interesting cases we're watching. We're in Dedham, Massachusetts, of course, for the socialite manslaughter trial for defendant Penelope McGee. We're also still in West Virginia, where the state is presenting a rebuttal case. And if you want to watch this game, this is the Ponzi scheme murder trial. Natalie Cochran. You could stream it over on CourtTV.com and watch that there. It's the rebuttal case, then it'll be closing arguments here. But boy, in Massachusetts, we have a fascinating scenario playing out right now. The daughter of the defendant is on the witness stand. She's also the daughter of this man who died in this. Penelope McGee is facing manslaughter charges tied to her husband, Andrew Savitz's death. This has happened back in 2020, and the daughter was 18 at the time. She is now 23 years old. Her name is Susie Savitz. So, big question. Did mom actually perform CPR on dad after this argument where he collapses? Susie's going to answer that. Coming up, let's watch.
When you got into the stairs and saw your parents the second time, what were they doing?
Still arguing. My dad was asking my mom to leave,
And what was your mom doing?
yelling at him. During that time, they kept moving towards the door. He was trying to tell her to leave, and she kept pushing back towards him.
And when you say pushing back towards him, what do you mean? What was she doing?
Shoving him,
And where was she shoving him?
his chest,
And what was she shoving him with?
her hands.
And how many times did you see her shoving him?
Multiple, but I don't remember the exact number.
And besides shoving, did her hands touch him in any other way?
Yeah, his face.
And how did his hands touch her face? What was she doing?
She slapped him
How many times did she slap him?
once.
And where were they standing when the shoving and the slapping occurred?
In the front hallway.
And what was your father doing when your mother was shoving and slapping?
Asking her to leave, and he had his hands up, kind of in defense.
Can you describe what was the tone of their voices while you were watching this shoving and slapping?
Penelope sounded very erratic.
And were you on the phone with 911 when you were observing this?
Yes.
And how did the pushing and the slapping end?
My father collapsed
And where did he collapse?
onto the floor in the front hallway.
And what did you do once that happened?
I started screaming, and I told 911 to send an ambulance.
And what was your mother doing once your father collapsed?
I don't remember exactly in the moment. She was just standing there.
And once he was on the ground, what did she do, if anything?
She just kind of stood there.
And how long do you think it took for 911 to arrive, for the paramedics to arrive?
I'm not sure exactly about the paramedics, but it took the police about 5 or 6 minutes to arrive.
And during that time period, what did your mother do?
At first, I kept begging her to give him CPR, and she insisted that he didn't need it.
Did she give him CPR?
Yes, eventually.
How would you describe your mother's behavior that night, from the time that she arrived at the home to when your father collapsed?
Frantic, erratic, angry.
Ms. Savitz, I'm going to play exhibit number 1.
Okay, Philip DeBay, what do we think here? So, daughter says, yes, gave CPR, but only after I urged mom to do it. What's your takeaway watching now, this is just direct, of the daughter on the stand?
Well, first of all, there's no evidence that mom knew he was even having a cardiac event. Is there even evidence that she knew of his medical history? If she had knowledge that he had a heart condition, that he was prone to
She did.
Okay, so even assuming that's correct, I'm not even sure she knew in the moment that it was in fact a heart attack. Just because somebody falls, it could have been a stroke. It could have been a dizzy spell. It could have been the onset of a seizure. She's not a paramedic. She's not an RN. She's not a doctor. But in the end, she did administer CPR. So it's not as if she just stood there and laughed or maybe gave him a control shot or a coup de grace to finally finish him off. She just stood there. And at the end of the day, we're not really talking about a fatal blow. We're talking about an argument, some screaming going on. That's most marriages. Could you imagine, Ted, you get into an argument, you yell at your wife, she collapses and survives, and now you're on trial for attempted murder? Where would it end? You know, she takes a stand and testifies against you. He yelled at me knowing good and well that I have clogged arteries. It's ridiculous. At this point, I truly believe it's overfiled.
And from the daughter's perspective, you could, it had to be shocking, heartbreaking, and I could see her having the causative effect in her mind, young woman thinking, oh, if mom wouldn't have yelled at dad, he'd still be alive. But I think you're right that this is a stretch to think that mom went over there.
Yes.
I know what I'll do. I'll yell at him and he'll croak from a heart attack, and that'll solve all our problems. Yeah.
No.
All right, we need a break. We'll get you back. We're going to watch more of this fascinating direct examination, including the 911 call that's going to be played for the judge right after this.
Grieving widow or mastermind behind a murder.
Monica Cementelli is accused of plotting to kill her husband.
Famed celebrity hairstylist Fabio Cementelli.
Prosecutors say she and her lover killed Fabio to collect a big life insurance policy.
The defense may say she's a bad woman, but she wouldn't be involved in a murder.
It's a whodunit Hollywood story, but will there be a twist that no one sees?
The celebrity stylist murder trial, today, only on Court TV.
Let's head back to Massachusetts now, where we're watching day 1 of the Socialite manslaughter trial. The defendant here, Penelope McGee, is accused of causing the death of her ex-husband, Andrew Savage. McGee has opted for a bench trial, meaning a judge, not just any judge, Beverly Cononi from Karen Reed, is going to decide her fate. She faces up to 20 years in prison if convicted. The defendant and victim's daughter is on the stand. We're about to listen to the 911 call from that night. Let's go back into the courtroom.
Play exhibit number 1.
911 front board, where's everything? Hello, can you please come to 40 Mariposa Sarah, 40 minutes work for the domestic. I'm going to come right now. Just get out of the way. I want you to stay on the phone with me. What's your name? Stop! Why is it listening? Stop! Lizzie, stop! Lizzie. Does anyone have weapons there? What? Does anyone have weapons? No. Stop! What's going on? What's happening? Stop! Stop! Okay. Okay, what just happened? How do you handle it? What just happened? Okay, is he doing it? Okay, can you bring your mom check for me, please? Okay. Izzy, I have help on the way, okay? I just want you to be confident, okay? Can you check and see if he's breathing? He's breathing. He's breathing. Okay? And just said paramedic 10, 40 medical blood, and down. You're okay. And just said paramedic 10, 50 medical blood. Okay. You're done. Izzy, I'm so aware, okay? How old are you? I'm 17. Okay. Please just stay on there. Please just stay on there. Please. I understand on the way, I promise, okay? I'm just saying. Okay. Okay, stay on the way. He is breathing, right? Is he talking to you? Izzy. Stop breathing. Izzy, help on the way, okay? I'm gonna help you with CPR, okay? Your mom know how to CPR? Okay? Stay on the way, Izzy? You're staying outside? You're doing great. I just want you to be sure for me, okay? Okay. You tell me when they're right there with you, okay? Take your deep breath for me. Doing great, okay? There's no ambulance. The ambulance is coming too. The police officers and the fire is come with them, okay? But they don't know. They won't know how to do CPR, so they're going to come and help, okay? Izzy, you're doing great. 911.
Ms. Savitz, is that your voice on that recording that we just heard?
Yes.
And is that the call that you made on January 28th of 2020?
Yes.
And when you were making that call, where were you standing?
In the front hallway.
And where was your dad when you were making that call?
On the floor.
And was he close to the stairs?
Yes.
Now, Ms. Savas, I'm going to show you some photographs. Pointer.